Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Brad Gothier, and today we'll be talking about freeing yourself from social media without deleting your accounts. Social media has become a very important aspect of our life, and it's the easiest way to stay in touch with distant friends and family. And so if it's starting to take over your life and you don't want to get rid of it completely, there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about kind of eliminating it from various aspects of your life, and I'd like to go over those with you today. The easiest way to instantly start freeing yourself from social media is to turn off notifications, because what I've always said is notifications is just another word for distraction. Because, you might be doing something that's really important, or you're spending time with your children or whatever it is, and your phone vibrates or it beeps or you see it flash. And what do? You whether you go and check the phone or not, you instantly are transported out of that moment. And it's really important to turn off the notifications throughout the phone, because most apps don't really need all of that instant attention. And if it waits a half hour, an hour, or even a few days, it usually is going to still be just fine. So the notifications really aren't that big of an importance, and it's the easiest way to eliminate the constant thoughts that what's happening in my newsfeed. And then the next thing that might not be so obvious, but I've done it and it helps a ton, is I actually delete the app off my phone, because you can always access the web version of it. You just go to the phone's web browser, just like you would on your computer, and you type in facebook.com or twitter.com, and they usually have a fairly good web app to use. And what that does is that you're not constantly seeing that icon, and it actually then completely eliminates any chance of notifications, because they don't really send notifications through the web. And so by using the web version, it just makes it so much more predictable of when you're going to actually use it, because you have to do just a couple more steps. You have to go to your phone, to your web browser, and then go to the actual website. And so it's usually the best route, is to just use the web apps. Another benefit of that is that when you have Facebook or Instagram or any of these apps on your phone, they actually can access almost all of the information that the phone provides. They're going to always know your location. They're going to know your, what you're doing. It's pretty scary, all of the stuff that they can grab from your phone at any given time when you allow those apps to live in your phone. So it's really important to not use any of those, not use any of the downloadable apps, and just stick to the web. Another area that's really important is, so if you're using the web, if you log out every time, that's really important, because not only does it, there's a side thing of when you're logged in and you go to another website, and if that website has the Facebook tracker installed, what ends up happening is then Facebook or Instagram or Google or whatever the platform is, they sometimes will then know that you've gone to those websites. And so it just increases the reach of what they know about you. And it also just, like a good example is the retargeting. So have you ever gone to an e-commerce store and say you're looking for a new car, and that new car then starts to show up on every social platform, in Google, all over? That's retargeting. That because you were logged in, or because they left a cookie on your computer or your browser, they can then start to retarget you. And so it's just a little bit of a privacy issue when they know so much. So just try to log out. But the real reason that you'd want to log out is that it gives just a little bit extra of a barrier for you to go back in. So say, for instance, you have 5 minutes of downtime and you're bored and you want to do something. It's so easy to just open up the phone and start scrolling and seeing, what's happening in the world. But if you don't have the app, so now you have to go to Safari or Chrome or Mozilla or any of the different web browsers, and then all of a sudden you now even need to log in and you need to add your password and all of that. It just gives that little bit of extra willpower for you to not go in, because the more that you are able to stay away from the social media newsfeed sometimes is much better for your health. Another really good tip for eliminating social media from your life is to create windows of when to use the various platforms. Especially not in the early morning, late at night. It's really easy to do. I'm a hypocrite. I catch myself doing it all the time. But in a perfect world, if we can have, a very short window on a daily basis of when we use it, it's just going to make our life so much more enjoyable. And so by creating a window that may be predefined, so maybe not anytime before 11 a.m. and not anytime after dinner, that's just going to free up your mind to focus on much more important things in the world, and it will allow you to live in the moment a little bit more. If you do choose to use notifications still, there's a really great feature, at least on the iPhone. I'm assuming other phones have this, but on the iPhone, there's a do not disturb. And that do not disturb, you can put for overnight time or even just all the time, which is what I tend to do because I don't like notifications. But I'll put on the do not disturb every night when I go to bed, and that just makes sure that if I'm, maybe half awake while laying in bed and the phone vibrates, I instantly am awake, and I'm now wondering what's happening on the phone. And if the do not disturb is on, what happens is there's no vibration. You won't know until the morning what happened, and it's usually a much better way to escape the constant 24/7 calling of the social media platforms. Okay, so here's another really great way to start freeing yourself from social media is to start fresh. Unlike everything that you've ever liked, because if you've had the social platforms as long as I have, it's been maybe 10, 15 years since you've been accumulating all of these likes and all of these just repository of things. And some of the stuff you might not even like anymore. There's stuff that I loved 10 years ago that I'm not really interested in anymore, but it still keeps coming up in the feed. And so what I've done, and it really helped with me, is I unliked everything and started fresh. I think I follow like 3 different brands right now, and it's mostly because they're just related to my everyday work. And so by unfollowing everything, it really gives you a blank slate to start fresh. And maybe there's some stuff that just have been dragging you down mentally, and by unliking them and unfollowing them, it just frees you up. Also, on things like Twitter and different platforms that you follow people and they might not be your friends or family, it's really good to go through and prune your list, because some people just dominate the news feed or whatever the feed is. So like on Twitter, there's some people that post and retweet all day long. And when you go in there, it's just dominated by that person. And that ends up then taking so much longer. If you want to quickly consume everybody that what they're doing, it just takes that much longer because there's all of this noise in there. And so by eliminating those people that don't really add a lot of value to your life, it starts to make your feed a lot more just enjoyable to consume. It's also really important to do so with the negative and fake stuff that's out there now. There's so many people that, they might have the best of intentions, but they are just constantly sharing negative stuff or false stuff or very clearly things that don't really add anything to your life. If you can just ruthlessly unfollow those people, it's so important. And it's one of those things that I've really tried to do. And it's also a double-edged sword, because sometimes you want to see what those other people are doing in your life. So there's different ways that you can like snooze them, or you can unfollow them for just a little bit. But for the most part, if someone is just continuously sharing stuff that does not do any benefit to you at all, it's so much better to just unfollow them, wash your hands of it and move on. Even if you're friends with them in real life, it doesn't mean that you have to be connected in social media. Go have a beer with them, go play sports with them or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if they're on social media just adding negativity to your feed, it's just going to continually bring you down. And that's what I've found by eliminating those narratives in my feed. It has really freed me from a lot of the negativity. And so it's really, really beneficial to prune your list. Another good way to start freeing yourself from social media is to be able to step away from it. And one of the things that you could do is pick a day of the week that you don't touch social media. And you have to be very, very adamant about not touching it. But say it's a Sunday fun day. Every Sunday, you don't go on social media. You don't check it. You don't, if there's any emails or notifications, just don't let it interrupt your day until the next day. And that day will give you just a full day of clarity for you to focus on other things in life that matter to you. One thing that's been very important to me throughout my life is my focus on habits. Because the thing is everything that we do, whether it's positive or negative, is a habit. And a lot of times this stuff is done subconsciously, and it's a habit that you won't even know that you're doing, but you've just done that action for so long that it's become a habit. And one of the important things about habit creation is knowing that you can't just magically stop doing something. You can only replace bad habits with better habits. And with social media, if we're getting overwhelmed with how much social media we're interacting with, that is essentially a bad habit. And so we need to eliminate that bad habit by replacing it with something else. And an easy example of this would be every time you catch yourself wanting to go on social media, maybe you pick up a book, or maybe you go for a walk, or maybe you listen to a song or an audiobook or whatever makes you a little bit happier. If you start doing that every time that you want to reach for your phone and check to see the latest status of some people, just try to do something else that you enjoy more. And by doing that over and over, it may take weeks, it may take months, depending on how strong that habit is. But over time, it will just become second nature for you to be, okay, I'm bored. What am I going to do? I'm going to pick up this book, or I'm going to work on some emails for my job, or whatever those things are. It just is a much better way to go through life, is just continually focusing on the habits that we have on a daily basis, and just try to replace the bad with the good. And one of the final tips I have for you is something that I learned throughout my lifetime as a person that meditates. I constantly try to bring myself to awareness. And what that means is every time I do find myself spending too much time on social media, I try to center myself and bring myself back to realizing that I'm spending too much time on these platforms. And so every time that you catch yourself on these platforms, if you recognize it, close it and just do something else, put the phone down, close the laptop, whatever it is. Every time you acknowledge that you are on these platforms, just do whatever you can to instantly get out of it. And over time, it's going to get to a point where it's really easy, where at a certain point you're like, oh, I'm on Facebook. I shouldn't be doing that. I should be working on this project. And you close it. Because once you get into it, it kind of becomes like a mindless thing of continually scrolling. And if you can be aware that you're doing this and close it right away, it's just going to help throughout the day, and it will get you off of the platforms quicker and quicker. And I'll leave you with this, that the way that social media platforms make money should concern all of us. And if that's not something that scares us away from using them more and more, I don't know what will. But there's a saying in the software world that if you're not paying for the product, you are the product, meaning that whatever you're doing in the app or the product, they're keeping track of that and they're selling it. Because think about, how does Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of these different platforms, how do they make money? They make money by selling your data. It's not like there's someone that's overlooking exactly what you're doing. It's more algorithms, and it's not terribly invasive from a person overlooking your stuff. But from a general privacy standpoint, there's advertisers and various groups that are able to access large swaths of people that have the same interests. And so if you are doing certain things, so maybe your interests are basketball or hunting or shopping or whatever those interests are, there's people that are, companies and organizations that are paying for that data to know that you are doing that. And it's very, very easy to just like everything that you see on Facebook. But what that does is every time you like it or you scroll past it or you just engage with it, maybe you just sit there and watch the video without doing anything, that still tells the algorithms what you are interested in. And what happens then is they then take that information and sell ads to advertisers on that same information. And ultimately, that's how the platforms make money, and that's why it's free. And it's kind of scary to me. It's very Big Brotherish, but at the end of the day, you really want to control what people know of you. And if you are constantly on social media, there's a lot of organizations that get a lot of information from it. And so whatever you can do to back away from social media more and more, it's just going to free up your life in a much better way. And in general, you'll have a much higher quality of life. So in closing, I hope that you really enjoyed all of these tips to free yourself from social media. It has helped me, and I hope that it helps you. It's really, there's so much beauty in the world, and we're not going to be able to enjoy it if we're constantly tied to our phone and not living in the moment. And so the more that we can put the social media app, put all that stuff away and just go out and live in the now, it's going to do us a world of difference when it comes to how we appreciate life and the level of happiness that we have for everything that we're doing. And as the social media platforms evolve, they're going to constantly try to do new things to hook you. And so the more that you can pull yourself away from it now, the easier it is to not get hooked in the future. So please listen to these suggestions and enact them in your life. And I wish you the best of luck. Much freer life is ahead of you without needing to be on social media all the time. So with that said, have a good day and see you out in the real world. Bye-bye.